My dear friends, life often places us in situations where we feel incomplete, where society whispers in our ears that without someone beside us, we are broken. But let me remind you of a truth. You are not incomplete because someone is missing from your life. You are complete because the divine power of God resides within you. A woman is not defined by her husband, her marriage, or her relationships. She is defined by her strength, her resilience, and her connection with God's eternal wisdom. There are countless women in this world who live without a husband, some by choice, some by circumstance. But should that mean they are alone? No, because when you walk with God, you are never truly alone. The divine stands with you in every tear, in every laughter, in every step of your journey. This speech today is not about sorrow, but about strength, not about loneliness, but about light, not about dependency, but about discovering the limitless power already within you. Let us explore together how a woman can rise, shine, and live with dignity, joy, and fulfillment, even when the world tries to label her as alone. When a woman finds herself walking through the corridors of life without a husband by her side, society is often quick to remind her of what is missing. There may be whispers, there may be unspoken judgments, and sometimes there may even be an inner emptiness that quietly knocks at her heart. But in those very moments when the world tries to convince her that she is alone, she has the chance to realize one of the deepest truths of human existence. She is never truly alone. The presence of God, unseen yet ever so real, becomes her truest, most faithful companion. Think of it for a moment. Every person in our lives, whether husband, wife, friend, or family member, has their own limitations. They cannot be with us every single second. They cannot understand our thoughts fully, and they cannot always ease our pain. But God, the eternal source of love, is present in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every thought that crosses our mind. When a woman begins to anchor her life in this divine companionship, loneliness transforms into strength, silence becomes prayer, and emptiness becomes a sacred space for inner growth. Consider the story of a woman who, after years of marriage, suddenly found herself widowed. The world around her seemed to crumble, and every day felt heavier than the last. At first, she thought her life had lost all meaning. The house was quieter, the festivals felt dull, and the night seemed longer. But slowly she began to turn her gaze inward. Instead of crying into her pillow, she started whispering her thoughts to God before sleeping. Instead of complaining about her struggles, she started thanking the divine for the breath she still had and the strength to move forward. Over time, she discovered that while she may have lost her husband, she had not lost the guiding presence of God. That realization gave her courage to live, smile, and inspire others who thought life had abandoned them. This connection with God does not require temples, rituals, or complicated practices. It begins with something as simple as sitting quietly, closing the eyes, and feeling the presence of the divine within. It is a conversation from the heart where you share your struggles, your dreams, your fears, and your gratitude. And in that quiet dialogue, you begin to feel a presence that never leaves, never judges, and never fails you. This is the companionship of God, one that outshines all earthly relationships because it is eternal, unconditional, and unbreakable. There are times when loneliness feels like a burden too heavy to carry. A woman may return home from a long day, and there is no one waiting to ask, "How was your day?" She may fall ill and have no husband by her side to care for her. In such moments, she can either drown in despair or rise in faith. When she chooses faith, she begins to see God's hand in the smallest details. The kindness of a neighbor, the smile of a child, the warmth of sunlight through the window. All of these become whispers from God saying, "I am here. I have never left you." What is more powerful than knowing that the divine listens to every sigh, every silent tear, every unspoken prayer? Human beings may fail us, promises may break, relationships may end, but God's companionship is steadfast. It does not fade with time, it does not weaken with distance, and it does not change with circumstances. This is why a woman, even without a husband, is never truly alone. She carries within her the greatest companion she could ever have, the infinite presence of God. Another simple example is from everyday life. Imagine a woman cooking alone in her kitchen. The sound of silence may feel heavy at times. But when she stirs the food while chanting God's name, when she turns cooking into an offering rather than a chore, that silence transforms into serenity. The act of preparing a meal becomes an act of love shared with the divine. She no longer feels that she is cooking for an empty house. She feels she is cooking in the presence of God, who is always seated at her table. Such a shift in perception changes loneliness into sacred companionship. This is why connection with God is not an option. It is a lifeline. It is what sustains the heart when worldly support fades. It is what strengthens the spirit when society points fingers. It is what brings light into the darkest nights and joy into the most ordinary days. When a woman realizes this, her loneliness becomes her teacher. It teaches her to rely not on the presence of another person, but on the eternal presence of God. It teaches her to find fulfillment not in external validation, but in internal peace. So my friends, let us remember this. A woman without a husband is not without love. She is not without support, and she is not without strength. For she walks with God, the companion who never abandons, never fails, and never stops loving her. And when she learns to walk in the shadow of that divine presence, she becomes stronger than the storms, braver than the obstacles, and brighter than the darkness. Because with God as her companion, she is never truly alone. From the very beginning, many women are taught that their value lies in how well they play the roles given to them by society. A good daughter, a good wife, a good mother. Titles that sound noble, but often become the only measure of her worth. But the truth is, a woman's self-worth is far greater than any relationship she holds. She is valuable not because she belongs to someone, but because she belongs to herself and to God's creation. Imagine a diamond. Whether it is placed in a crown or left on the table, its shine does not depend on where it sits. Its value does not decrease simply because it is not worn by someone. In the same way, a woman's worth does not depend on whether she has a husband, whether she is married, or whether society approves of her. Her worth lies in her character, her compassion, her wisdom, and her ability to touch lives around her. There are countless examples from daily life where women have proven that their identity is not tied to a relationship, but to their own abilities. Consider the single mother who raises her children with dignity, working day and night, not just to feed them, but to instill values of strength and kindness. Society may pity her for being without a husband, but her children see her as a hero. Her workplace sees her as dependable, and God sees her as a soul fulfilling her purpose with unmatched courage. She is not defined by who is missing in her life. She is defined by the greatness of what she gives to life. When a woman begins to measure her worth by her inner qualities instead of her outer circumstances, she rises above the need for validation. She no longer asks, "Am I enough without a husband?" Instead, she declares, "I am enough because I am me." This shift in perspective is transformative. She starts walking with confidence, speaking with clarity, and living with a sense of freedom that no social pressure can take away. Think about how often women are told, "You are incomplete until you are married." These words may echo in many cultures, but they are far from the truth. Completeness is not about another person completing you. It is about you discovering the fullness of your own existence. When a woman discovers her talents, her passions, and her connection with God, she realizes she has everything she needs within herself. A husband can be a partner, a companion, a supporter, but never the source of her worth. That worth is divinely placed in her soul the moment she was created. Take an everyday scenario. A woman who lives alone and decides to learn a new skill like painting, gardening, or writing. Every stroke of her brush, every seed she plants, every word she writes becomes an expression of who she is. Not someone's wife, not someone's daughter, but simply herself. Slowly she begins to see that she is not waiting for someone to bring meaning into her life. She is already creating meaning for herself. This is what self-worth beyond relationships looks like. It is the ability to stand in front of the mirror and smile. Not because someone else loves you, but because you love the person looking back at you. There is also great peace in understanding that relationships may come and go, but self-worth must remain unshaken. A husband may pass away, a marriage may break or circumstances may change. But none of these can strip away the value of a woman's heart, mind, and spirit. The world may say, "She is alone now," but God whispers, "She is still my masterpiece." Sometimes women sacrifice their dreams, passions, and even their identities just to fit into the box that society expects of them. But the strongest women are those who rise beyond these limitations and embrace who they truly are. Their worth is not in how perfectly they meet others' expectations, but in how authentically they live their own truth. When she chooses authenticity, she chooses freedom. Another simple example. Imagine a woman who loves to read, who spends her evenings with books instead of conversations. Society might label her as lonely, but she knows she is not. In those books, she expands her mind, learns new lessons, and connects with wisdom from across the world. Her evenings are not empty. They are filled with growth, peace, and inspiration. This is what it means to value yourself beyond societal definitions. So my friends, let us remind ourselves and remind every woman we meet. You are not valuable because of your relationship status. You are valuable because of your existence. You are not precious because someone chooses you. You are precious because you were created with divine intention. Your worth is not measured by rings, titles, or labels, but by the light you carry within your soul. A woman without a husband is not without worth. In fact, her journey may open doors to discovering a deeper self, a freer life, and a closer connection with God. She learns that her smile has value, her wisdom has value, her kindness has value, and her very being has value. This understanding becomes her shield against society's judgments and her strength during life's storms. Self-worth beyond relationships is the foundation of true empowerment. When a woman embraces it, she no longer seeks approval, she no longer fears rejection, and she no longer feels incomplete. She walks tall, she shines brightly, and she inspires others simply by living in the truth of who she is. And that truth, my friends, is that she is whole. She is strong and she is worthy, always with or without a husband. Life has a way of testing every single one of us. But the weight of those tests often falls heaviest on women who walk alone without a husband. There are days when she must face the world with courage, even though her heart is trembling inside. There are nights when silence surrounds her, and it feels as if the whole world has forgotten her existence. Yet it is in these very moments of challenge that a woman's true strength is revealed. Just like gold is refined through fire, a woman's character is refined through the struggle she endures. When challenges come, they can either break us or build us. For a woman living without a husband, every challenge becomes an opportunity to discover her own hidden power. She may not realize it at first, but every time she chooses to face the difficulties rather than run from them, she becomes stronger, braver, and more resilient. Strength is not built in times of comfort. It is built in the furnace of trials. Take, for example, a woman who suddenly becomes the head of her household after losing her husband. At first, fear grips her. How will she manage the finances, raise her children, or even deal with the loneliness that seeps into her evenings? The first steps are always shaky. She might cry herself to sleep, doubt her abilities, and feel crushed under the weight of responsibility. But slowly, step by step, she learns. She learns how to budget her money, how to fix small things in the house, how to deal with challenges at work, and most importantly, how to stand tall when others expect her to fall. With every challenge she faces, she grows stronger, not because life became easier, but because she became tougher. Strength through challenges is not about pretending that pain does not exist. It is not about hiding tears or wearing a mask of false courage. It is about embracing the reality of difficulties while still choosing to rise above them. It is about saying, "Yes, this is hard, but I am harder. Yes, this storm is fierce, but my spirit is fiercer." A woman who faces her challenges with such determination becomes an inspiration not only to herself, but also to everyone who watches her. Consider the simple daily challenges many women face: waking up early, going to work, cooking meals, paying bills, handling family expectations, and dealing with loneliness at the same time. On the surface, these may look ordinary, but when a woman carries all these responsibilities alone, they become extraordinary acts of courage. Each day she completes successfully is a victory, a reminder that she is not weak, but incredibly strong. Sometimes challenges appear in the form of society's judgment. People may look at a woman without a husband and whisper, "She cannot handle life alone." But it is precisely in proving them wrong that her strength shines the brightest. Every achievement, no matter how small, becomes a statement. I can, I will, I already am. When she pays her own bills, makes her own decisions, or raises her children with dignity, she shows the world that strength does not come from who stands beside her, but from who stands within her. Think about nature for a moment. A tree standing alone in the middle of a field has no other trees to shield it from the storm. The winds hit it harder, the sun burns it stronger, and the rains drench it deeper. Yet it is that very tree which grows the toughest roots and stands the tallest in the landscape. In the same way, a woman who faces life without the shelter of a husband grows roots of strength, resilience, and independence that no storm can uproot. Daily life examples remind us how strength is born from challenges.